Hello, and welcome to another short video by me, Mike, on Math Mike, our YouTube channel. This video is primarily produced for my students who may have missed a class or who want to go back and review a topic. Maybe they're getting ready for the GED and they can't remember something they learned at the beginning of the class, or they missed a class because their kid had a baseball game or something. So just to be aware, this is a very low production video. I'm not putting any editing time in. This is straight up the way it goes, but it's great. And if you want to pass your GED, this will help you, because what we're going to go over today is things about angles. So we're going to do a short video here just about angles, introduce some of the vocabulary, and make sure that we know what's going on when we get to some of the easier questions on the GED or the HISET, which might have to do with angles. So here we go. When it comes to lines, and talking about a line as an infinite set of points that goes in two directions, infinitely straight. Angles are going to deal with the relationship either between two lines or between two line segments or between two rays. So anytime two lines intersect, they form an angle, which is the measurement of how much space is in between the two lines. Okay, so we're talking about the angle. So what can two lines, segments, or rays do? Well, they can go in exactly the same direction on a flat surface so that they never get farther apart. They never touch. They just infinitely go the same direction, kind of like railroad tracks or a two-lane road if it's perfectly straight. The lines on that road would basically be like this right here, and the word for that is parallel. So parallel means that they go the same direction on a two-dimensional flat surface, and they never get closer and they never get farther away. Okay, well, that's one thing that lines can do. Another thing that lines can do is they can go exactly 90 degrees away from each other. All right, a perfect city-street intersection would look like this. This is called perpendicular. So parallel and perpendicular, unfortunately, both start with P's, but they're exactly opposites. So in a perpendicular pair of lines, they make a perfect 90-degree angle. So the symbol that gets used for 90-degree angle is this little box, because mathematicians are too lazy to write 90 degrees. So they just make this little box. That is supposed to tell you that is a perfect 90-degree angle. Now, if two lines aren't parallel and they're not perpendicular, what else could they be? Well, they could be anything else. So they could cross at any angle measurement. So this is called intersecting. So if lines aren't parallel and they're not perpendicular, they could be intersecting. Now, some more vocabulary that you're going to run into. These three words here. So you have acute angles, you have right angles, and you have obtuse angles. So an acute angle is less than 90 degrees. So if this right here is 90 degrees, anything that would be smaller than that is going to be an acute angle. So let's just mark that in blue. So acute angles on this page are not these. There's no angles here, but this angle here, and then the one opposite, these are less than 90 degrees. Because if you took a corner of a paper, and remember, if you have a piece of paper, or a piece of worksheet, scrap paper, you can always measure 90 degrees because it's the same as the corner of a sheet of paper. But this is less. You cannot fit a corner of a paper in here. If you did, it would be something like this, and that's too big. So you know this is less than 90, therefore it's an acute angle. These are also acute, and these two over here are also acute angle. And one way people remember that is they say, oh, it's a cute little angle. All right, right angles we already said are 90 degrees. So these are right angles. All four of these are right angles. This is a right angle and it's marked that way. And the rest of them, there are no right angles. People are pretty good at seeing a right angle, and they're not going to try to trick you and mark something as a right angle and actually make it 89.5 degrees. All right, if they mark it as a right angle, it's a right angle. Okay. The last one that we're going to look at is obtuse. Now, if somebody calls you obtuse, they're saying that you're a little thick-headed, that you just don't get it. But in geometry, obtuse means bigger than 90. So this angle here is definitely more than 90. You could take a corner of a paper and stick it right down in there, and it would look something like this, and it would be there, and this angle is bigger than that. So an obtuse angle is bigger than 90 degrees. So that's obtuse. This angle is obtuse right here, this one right there, it's the same thing. There's an obtuse angle, there's an obtuse angle, and that's an obtuse angle, and this big one right here is an obtuse angle. All right, so we've talked about acute, right, and obtuse angles. What else do we need to know about angles? Well, before we go to the next page, I'm going to talk just a little bit about how they get named. So angles get named in one of two ways. Sometimes they have a letter and it's just sitting where the angle is. So that could be angle A. But that's not what you're normally going to see. Normally what you're going to get is you're going to get points. You'll have a point where they intersect. Maybe I should change to a different color here. You're going to have a point where they intersect, and you're going to have points on the lines that make up the angle. So if you had 5 points here, and we'll just call this one A, and we'll call this one B, and C and D, and we'll make the one in the middle E. If you were looking for angle A, E, C, what they're telling you by this notation is you're looking for an angle that goes from point A to point E in the center. So the center point has to be the one in the middle, and then it goes to angle C. So that means you are going from point A into point E and out to point C. You are looking for this angle right here. What if you were looking for this angle? I'm going to change color a little bit here. So let's say you're looking for this angle in blue. How would you notate that? What would that read? There's actually two different answers. So pause the video, name that angle, and see if you get it correct. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. All right, we should have paused and tried. If you called that angle CED, you are correct. But what if you called it angle DEC? You are also correct. The only thing that is different is the order, and angles don't matter where they start because they go both directions infinitely. Okay, so that would be angle CED or DEC. Now it's time to go over to the next page. Let's talk about some interesting facts. And these are some things, again, these are your softballs. This is your low-hanging fruit of the GED test. If you can get some of these questions, this is great. So let's talk about some interesting facts about intersecting lines. So we're going to move this down here. Oh, we're going to move it down to there. Stay down there, buddy. All right. The first thing that's an interesting fact is that the opposite angles of two intersecting lines are always equal. They're the same thing. Two angles that make up a straight line together always add up to 180. So what are we talking about? Here's an example where you have a problem, and we'll put an X down here. And let's say they tell you that this is, let's say it's a 70-degree angle. And they ask you to find X. Find angle X. Well, if these two angles are both made of two intersecting straight lines, and they are opposite of each other, okay, they're called vertical angles. You don't need to know that for the GED. You just need to know what it means. What it means is they have to be the same thing. Think about a scissors. As you pull a scissors apart, they pivot, right? They pivot. The angles here and here are going to stay about the same unless your scissors is bent. And the angles over here and over here are going to stay the same. So there's no way to not do that. So anytime you have one angle, you actually have two angles. All right, well, that's great. What about these two? If that's 70 degrees and that's 70 degrees, how can we find this angle? Well, these are vertical, so they have to be the same thing. Now we're going to go over to this diagram to kind of explain how you know what these two are. You should know, and if you don't, that's okay, but a circle is made up of 360 degrees. Okay, almost the length of the year, go figure. It's probably not a coincidence. 360 degrees, and we've already talked about if two lines are perfectly perpendicular, they are all 90 degrees, and 90 plus 90 plus 90 is 360 degrees. Well, if the whole way around a circle is 360, that means you can think about going the whole way around your two intersecting lines. And these four angles have to add up to 360. Okay, so if they have to add up to 360 degrees, then what you know, I'm going to put our 70s back, is that a straight line, if the whole thing is 360, then a straight line straight across has to be 180. And the name for that is supplementary angles. So two angles that equal 180 degrees. So this angle and this angle, so say A and B, would be called supplementary angles because they add up to 180 degrees. Well, over here, 70 plus, we'll make this an X, 70 plus X makes a straight line. Because it makes a straight line, this has to be whatever it takes to add up to 70 to equal 180 degrees. So you have a very simple problem to solve here. What number does X have to be? Well, if you want to do it with a one-step equation, you just subtract 70 from both sides. Otherwise, you could just look at it and figure out. These would cancel. X has to equal 110 degrees. So if this one's 110, what does this one have to be? Well, again, it's a vertical angle. It's directly across. So that means that has to be 110. Now we can check. So let's check and make sure that our rules follow. So from here to here, we have 110 plus 70, 110 and 70. That adds to 180. From this part to over here, you have 70 plus 110, still 180. From here to there, we have 110 plus 70, still 180. And going back to start, 70 plus 110, still 180. And it looks like some kind of universal smiley face there. Very nice, very nice. Kind of like a little cosmic math. Okay, so that's the first big thing. Two angles that make a straight line are 180. All the angles put together have to equal 360. It's basically a logic problem. And what you're going to do is you're going to use your logic to figure those out. Okay, there's nothing to memorize. Second cool thing. Okay, well, we kind of covered this. So let's just go over it again with some new numbers. Because the circle is 360 degrees, once you know one of them, you know all of them. If there's only four angles, I should say that, if there's only four angles. So let's make this, we'll make this 75 degrees this time. So if that's 75, the easiest one to do right away is 75. Now, feel free to pause and figure out what these two angles both have to be, and then see if you get it right. Okay, well, let's take a look at it. 75 plus what number equals 180? Well, 75 plus 5 gets you to 80, and then you need another 100. So this angle right here is going to be 105 degrees. That one's 75, and because this is 105, this one has to be 105 degrees. It's very simple, okay? You want to see these questions on the test because you'll get these right for sure. You won't even have to strain your brain. All right, number 3. And let's just cover that up. Okay, a pair of parallel lines intersected by another line only forms two different angles. So let's take a look at this. Here's the idea though. This line, all right, and this line. So we could name these. We could call this AB. So that would be line, A, B. is parallel. That's how you do parallel. This, well, that's not great. Let's fix that. What happens when I have to write by hand is parallel. Okay, that is supposed to be parallel to line. We'll call this C and we'll call this D. So if A, B, and CD are parallel, line CD. By definition, a line that goes across them makes the same angles, and they will be relatively obvious. So let's figure out what we want to call this. Let's call this one 60 degrees. As soon as I know that one angle, I now know every other angle. There's 7 other angles here. I know them all. This angle right here is in exactly the same place as this angle right here, because these lines are going the same direction. So these 2 angles, this one and that one, they are the same angle. They have to be. So if we put them back, then we know that if this is 60, this is 60. Okay, so that's 2 out of 8 down. But now we use the vertical angle idea. If that one's 60, this one right here has to be 60. And if that one's 60, this one has to be 60 degrees. So we've got 4 of them. Great, great, we've got 4. What about the other 4? Well, they all have to be the same thing. And they have to be, change colors here. They have to be whatever number adds to 60 to make 180 degrees, because it's a straight line. Well, 60 plus 120 equals 180. 120 plus 60 equals 180. So 60 plus 120 has to equal 180. Now, because this angle and this angle are in the same place, this also has to be 120, and that one does too, because they are vertically across from each other. All right, so that's kind of cool. It looks like it's a tough question. It's really not. If you can add to 180, you can get every one of those angles. Okay, so the last and final thing that we're going to talk about with angles is going to be a practice problem. And this is it. This is it. So we are going to say that we have angle. You're going to have, this is going to be point C. This is going to be point B. This is going to be point A. This is going to be point D. And this is going to be point E. And they want given angle ACB is 105 degrees. Whoops. Let's see, we got to fix this. We got to fix this. I'll put my B over there. I'll put my E over here. There we go. Yeah, because that didn't look like 105 degrees over there. It looked like less than 90. Given the measurement of all the angles above, you got to find the measurement. Given angle ACB. So here's what you're looking for. Got this one right here. So from A to C to B, so this angle right here, all right, that one right there, this whole angle is 105 degrees. If that's 105 degrees, find all the other angles. Well, you can start with the supplementary angles, which would be these 2, or you could start with the vertical angle, which is down here. I always like doing the vertical angle first because I feel like it just doesn't take much thought. It's easy. And then 105 plus what equals 180. Remember, you're adding to 180, not 200. So this is only a 75 degree angle because this is vertical over here. That is a 75 degree angle, and you're done. The only other thing that they could do to make this a little bit tricky is they could say something like, this is 2x, and this is x. And they could ask you to find the measurement of the angles. If you run into something like this, what you need to do is write what I call a statement of truth. You know that these 2 angles equal 180. So you do something like 2x plus x. So this one plus that one equals 180. And in this case, you need to use a little bit of algebra. 2x plus x is 3x. If it equals 180, Then you need to solve for x by dividing both sides by 3. That crosses out. X is equal to 180 divided by 3. It'd be 60. So that would make this one 60. This would be 2 times 60. So that would be 120. And then you could get the rest of them. Now they could add +1s or -2s. Work on your algebra. Remember, the vast majority of this test is going to be algebra and geometry. Those are your 2 biggest parts. Make sure you are especially good at algebra. But that's it for the video. If you like the video, be sure to like it, share it, subscribe it, I don't know, recommend it, do whatever people do with videos. And if you want any specific concepts covered, I'd be thrilled to make it for you. Just put it in the comments or leave me a note in the comments down below, and I will watch for them and hopefully make a video about something you need to learn. Thanks a lot, and good luck on your quest to get your GED. See ya.